final webinar of the spring. Today's topic is preparing for a summer SOAR experience, and we're so glad you could join us. A couple housekeeping issues. Certainly, you can find out more about our programs at www.soarnc.org. If you've got questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat, and we will get to them as we can over the course of the webinar. With that, I just am so thankful all of you could join us, and we're delighted to have you. Let's get started. All right, so packing for camp. And one of the things that makes us unique is that we are an expeditionary program. So most of the kids, when they come, with the exception of one, will only be on base camp for 1, 2, or 3 nights, and the rest of the time they're out, they're camping. So first and foremost, make sure that your camper helps, because the more they are invested in the experience, the more they know where the things are that they pack, the better off they're going to be. Label everything. You can buy little labels at Walmart. You can use a little Sharpie to put initials or names on items. But if it doesn't label it, there's a chance it won't come home. As you well know, these young men and women are hounds of chaos, and so organization is certainly one of the things that we are working on, and labeling helps us do that. Big fan of using quart and gallon size freezer bags for items, because it helps keep them dry and also organized. Do not bring electronics. The caveat to that is if your kids are flying, then certainly we want them to have a phone. But when they get to camp, it'll go into a bag. We'll make sure that it's charged for them, and then as they depart, they'll be given those electronics back. But we are not a program that they are using electronics actively throughout the program. Course-specific gear lists can be found in your Camp in Touch account, and so every course has some subtle differences in terms of the things that we're encouraging you to bring. And if you have any questions about that, we have this really wonderful gear guide available to you that kind of talks through what kind of sleeping bag to get, or how to choose a right pack if they're going backpacking. And then we encourage you to stick with the gear list. It has been honed over many, many years. And again, if you've got suggestions at the end of that time, upon the conclusion of the experience, we love that feedback. But try not to send more because you think they'll need more. Those gear lists are really put together specifically to help your child be successful while they're at camp. Okay, medications. We need the medications in the original pill bottles, and that is prescription medication. And we also encourage you to remove out of those original pill bottles any medication that exceeds 1 or 2 days of extra meds, because we are going to count every single pill, and ideally we have the exact amount plus 1 or 2 days. Do not send gummy medications or gummy vitamins. What happens is they melt into this gelatinous blob, and it just doesn't work. It's incredibly ineffective and inefficient. And then there are wonderful meds out there that are patches. Daytrana is one of them. But when they get wet, they come off, and so buy Tegaderm so that it makes that spot more sticky and that they'll stay on. Okay. We're also discouraging the use. I mean, if you're already doing the blister packs with the medications, we're not going to ask you to do something differently, but we certainly don't want you just doing the blister packs for summer camp. If for whatever reason they get disrupted or opened, and they take up so much space. And as you can imagine, the medication bags that our counselors are carrying. Pills in pill bottles with their name is only okay if it's the original pill bottles. We want to see on the pill bottle, because we use that as confirmation correct dosages. And so please make sure that they need to be in their original pill bottle, prescription bottle. Okay, so a pill bottle with just their name and what the med is not sufficient. They need to be in the original pill bottle. Okay, all right. Let's see. Kate just asked, what is the link to our In Touch account? We'll get that to you. Kate, we'll email that to you privately. Okay, here we go. The next slide. Travel. If you're driving, call ahead to schedule your drop-off time so that we know when folks are arriving. There's limited space at each of our facilities here in Wyoming and in North Carolina, and so we try and stagger those arrivals. If you're driving and you arrive early, don't be surprised if we let you know that camp is not ready to accept individuals, and we send you back into town. So do not come early. The SOAR travel form has to be filled out 2 weeks prior to camp, because we're trying to organize all that and make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row, and have made the arrangements to make sure that we've accommodated all of the folks that are driving in, as well as all of our flyers. Speaking of flying, if you are flying in, ensure that that flight falls within approved travel times, so that we don't end up with folks at the airport waiting all day long, or having to, on the departure end, having to leave at an obscene hour in the morning in order to make an early flight. We are about an hour from an airport here in North Carolina, and about an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours from an airport there in our base camp in Wyoming. Here are the arrival times and the departure times. In Asheville, you can fly into Asheville or Greenville from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can arrive into Denver on our Colorado program from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. For our Florida course, you can arrive into Fort Lauderdale Airport from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Courses in Wyoming will happen from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the course I'm running this summer, the California program, you can fly into San Francisco from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Those departures are listed here. Again, you can fly out of North Carolina at either Asheville or Greenville Spartanburg from 11 to 3 p.m. You can fly out of Denver from 12 to 4, Fort Lauderdale from 2 to 6, Jackson Hole from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that is an early start for those folks that have a 10 a.m. flight out of Jackson Hole. But we make that work. And then, of course, San Francisco from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, one of the really remarkable things that we love to do is to really get to know you and your kids in what we call the in-brief process. All right, so, and that in-brief is an opportunity for you to spend time talking with the actual instructors who your kids will be working with, and you can ask them questions. They're going to ask you some very specific questions, and sort of help us set up for success in a way that will allow us to meet your children's needs. Kids that are flying into all of our Belize, Colorado, California, and Florida campers will have a phone call to you between 3 p.m., 6 p.m. the evening before camp begins. We're not going to schedule those. Those instructors will be calling that the evening, that 3 p.m., 6 p.m. And that 3 p.m., 6 p.m. for Belize, Colorado, California, and Florida is the time that so that Belize would be Eastern Standard Time, the Colorado would be Mountain Time, California would be Pacific Time, and Florida would be Eastern Standard Time. Wyoming campers who are flying and all Colorado campers on the phone between 4 and 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then Wyoming and North Carolina, in-person arrivals, your in brief actually gets to occur in person and on the very first day of camp, and you will have scheduled those arrivals between 1 p.m. and 4:30. Okay. If we're doing those, if we're doing the in brief via the phone, also it'd be great if your son or daughter, whoever's on the course, could be involved in that call. During an in brief at camp here in North Carolina or Wyoming, you'll review the medication, you'll sign the med form, and we'll have instructors counting the medication to make sure that we have the right meds, and that what we have on the sheet is what you're expected to present. Campers will unload belongings, and then we have a special spot for each course, and they'll place their items in those designated areas. We'll review the in brief form, where we'll ask a specific set of questions, and then you will have a chance to ask us any questions. You'll take home any electronics, again, unless your child is flying home. And then we want you to give your child a big old hug and say goodbye and let them get started. We'll have activities going all of the time, and it'll be the sooner that you leave, the sooner they can start to engage in this experience with all of their new friends. So what does it look like that first day? Campers get to know each other until the team is complete, and then typically by dinner, relationships are being formed. We have a first night ceremony, and campers are presented with the correct gift. And so if this is your first year, you get a water bottle. If it's your second year, you get a certain item, third, fourth, fifth, and on. And those gifts are given at the beginning of the first night. We'll review the schedule for the next day, and certainly some expectations. Typically, if possible, that is done around a campfire. Then we have lots of fun icebreakers and get to know you activities. And by the end of the evening, a very powerful relationship has started to build between the students and the staff, and it culminates with something we call a full value contract, where the kids have a chance to develop and make up the rules as they want them to be in their program. We have a couple basics. We need you to listen when an instructor is talking. We have a rule about no put downs, and if it does happen, then you owe somebody 3 put-ups. We always want you to wear shoes because the activities we do require that your feet are in decent shape, and then we want folks to have fun. So we've got a couple basic core set of rules, and then each group gets to develop and build their own kind of full value contract as to how they want to operate with each other. They will also come up with their own name, and they'll make a flag. Okay. Does the water bottle they get as a gift count as the one of the 2 we pack, or should we still pack 2? You're welcome to just pack 1 if they're a first-time camper. If they're a second-time camper, then you'll want to make sure that they pack the 2 water bottles. That's a great question, Kristen. And we should make a note of that. All right. Communication and phone policy. No cell phones. All right. No, you're not going to be able to talk to your child every day. Okay. Oh, Joseph, I'll answer your question here in just a moment. So campers doing multiple courses will in fact get a chance to call home in between those courses, but we don't have kids call home during courses, because what happens is they've got 1 foot at home and they've got 1 foot here, and they never have, both feet in the same place. And then the other first ascent kids do have their phones because, again, they're adults and they're living in the real world. If you want an update, you can request one, and we'll certainly reach out to you during the course and get you an update. Mail is always welcome through NC and in Wyoming through the post office. I know it's at the bottom, but do not send packages. there just isn't enough room. They often don't get them until the course is over, and never, ever, ever send food to camp. What happens with the food is kids get the food and then they put it in the cabins, and ants and other things, will want to find those things. They'll put them in the tent. It's just not good. So do not send packages, but in particular, never send food to camp. Once mail comes in, a course director will pick it up and take it into the field, give mail out, and that happens every couple of days. Okay. I'll answer Joseph's question now. I said no put downs and a put up. So for instance, the put down is, saying like you stink, and a put up would be, I think that you're really nice. I love your sense of humor, and I appreciate how kind you are to other people. Okay. How do you request an update? Well, Raquel, you can do that through an email. You can also leave a message at SOAR, and you simply get a call, and you can receive that update via another email, or a course director will give you a call at a designated time. The mailing address is also in your parent handbook. At SOAR, it is P.O. Box 388, or the physical address is 226 SOAR Lane, Balsam, North Carolina 28707. And the physical address for Wyoming is, Karina, do you have that? Can you post that on the in the chat?
Yep.
All right. And then okay. All right. Campers are sleeping in tents. And Michelle, at the end of this webinar, I will circle back to that, and I will talk about the different programs and location. All right. Okay. All right. Pictures. So staff and course directors will be taking pictures, but they don't get uploaded until the last day of course. Because of the expeditionary nature of how we operate, unlike other summer camps where they're at a single facility all the time, it's not possible for us to just keep updating pictures. And so we wish we could, but in order to do that, we would have to hire an army of photographers to be traveling with the program, and we just can't make that a reality. Once they get uploaded, they will be available to you in your Camp in Touch account. Unfortunately, there is a small fee to download them. That is not a fee that SOAR is asking you to pay for. That is a fee that the software company upcharges in order to download those pictures. And we have tried to figure out a way to circumvent that, but we can't, because we believe those pictures should be yours. So not a dime of that comes back to SOAR. Okay. Food at camp. At our base camp, we have a camp cook, and they eat under the covered dining area. They have camp-friendly meals, and the meals are still nutritionally balanced and are available for plenty of helpings, first, seconds, and thirds. Often, campers make their own meals under the guidance of staff while they're in the field, and the instructors have predetermined that, and so they actually do backpacking kind of meals. And so the kinds of dinners they might make would be, there's one of the favorites is something called walking tacos, where they have these little bags of Doritos or whatever, and they're Fritos, and they put all kinds of fun things in that. And then if they want more, there's a bigger bag of Fritos that'll go in that, and more ingredients. And so it's like tacos in a bag. We've got chili mac that they make in the field. Sometimes they do grilled cheese sandwiches. Spaghetti's a favorite. And then the big favorite at camp is something we call trail pizzas, which are essentially mozzarella, spaghetti sauce, pepperoni, mushrooms, sometimes even pineapple on a flour tortilla. And so it's a quesadilla, essentially, with some mozzarella, and we call them trail pizzas. A lot of fun. If your child is on a particularly special diet, that is, we do charge $100 additional. That includes things like making sure they keep kosher or gluten-free diet, or they need vegetarian options to replace all of the meat options. And so there is an upcharge if there is a special diet that is going to require additional food being purchased for them. It's $150 if they're here for longer, and SOAR will need to purchase that special food. If there are certain foods that you know that your kids are going to need because of those diets, you can send those in advance or with your kids, and if there's enough of that to cover so that we don't have to purchase any additional special food, then you will be relieved of that $100 charge. Okay. Personal hygiene. We have a very structured way that we do hygiene. Kids will have access to showers while on base camp, and very often some of the campsites that we're staying at, but not every day. They won't have access to shower every day. And so when they're out on expedition, whether it's backpacking or canoe camping, they'll have to wait until the end of that experience before they can take a shower. Our daily hygiene schedule has a couple components to it. The TBC, otherwise known as the toothbrush circle. It occurs each morning and night, and often they'll play a song that lasts 2 minutes, and everyone brushes their teeth, and they all do it together. And if you say, "Oh, I already brushed my teeth," well, you get to brush them again, because it is a community event, and that way we can make sure that kids are brushing their teeth at least twice a day. There's hand washing before meals, and then kids are expected to change their underwear and socks on a daily basis, and that is something that we encourage and expect them to do. Each program has a built-in time to do laundry while on program, and at the laundromat, students will be instructed on how to wash their own clothes and then dry them and repack in the middle of the course. We do not do a laundry at the end of the course, and so you can expect to have your kids come back with clothes that have been worn, because for the second half of the program, we're going to let you do that. And the reason we're going to let you do that is that years ago, we would try and do that, and in the rush, kids would not get their clothes completely dry, and then they would pack them in their bags, and you can imagine what musty, wet clothes smell like, even if they've been cleaned, if they've been sitting in a bag for 2 or 3 days. So we do not wash clothes in preparation for kids returning home. Spending money. Spending money is for course and layover days will be added to your invoice. Please do not send more money than beyond the invoiced amount. Some of your child's spending money will be held aside for that final celebratory dinner, where the kids get to decide where their big celebration is going to be. The remainder of that money may be used for student souvenirs, necessary personal items during the course. Let's say they lost their toothbrush and they need to buy a new toothbrush, or they found a t-shirt at one of the rafting stores that they really want to buy. Unspent money from purchases will be returned during the debrief. You can decide to leave that spending money and let it go into the scholarship fund, but that is up to you. We don't typically keep receipts of how the kids spent their money unless you've requested us to do so. All right, so this is going to answer your question. Much of the program is spent camping in tents. In the North Carolina program, again, the backpacking course, they are spending the night in campgrounds, as well as a few nights at base camp, and then backpacking. And when they go backpacking, they're spending the nights in tarps. The horsebacking program here in North Carolina, they are mostly in dedicated campsites, but sleeping in tents. In our discovery program, the same. But there is they are mostly in dedicated campgrounds. The canoe camping course, again, very much like the backpack, the classic course. They are on expedition while they're on the lake, and will be sleeping in tents during that time on little islands or peninsulas. But the remainder of the time they are spending in dedicated campgrounds or at our base camp. Our first ascent program, both in North Carolina and Wyoming, there is a small amount of tent camping, but much of that program is staying in VRBOs that have been secured both in the different areas that they're going to. Our out courses, Costa Rica, there is no tent camping on that program. They are staying in youth hostels and casitas, small little homes over the course of that experience. In California, that they are exclusively camping the entire time, as well as Colorado, and at dedicated campgrounds throughout the program. I hope that answered your question. If it did not, I'll be happy to, if you want to post another question in the chat, I'll be happy to return back to that. Generally, we have about 3 to 4 participants in a tent under a tarp, and sometimes it's just 2. And if we have an issue with a particular camper, they may be in a tarp or tent by themselves, but next to an instructor who is in a tent. Staff never are going to be sleeping in tents with campers, ever. But sometimes under a giant big tarp, the whole group might sleep under a big tarp. Tent groups are typically divided by age and gender. Boys and girls do not share tents. Age gaps are a max of 3 years. And so you could have an 11-year-old, sharing a tent with a 14-year-old, but never a 15-year-old. Okay. All right. One of the things that we spend some time and energy in our staff training and on courses is demystifying the idea of pooping in the woods. This is really based on our expedition courses. Out in Wyoming, we've got a couple expeditionary opportunities. I did mention in Wyoming, they're mostly staying at the base camp for the majority of their experiences there. But we teach kids that are on an expedition how to poop in the woods, how to dig a cat hole, how to rate how terrific that opportunity was by giving it a 1 to 5 star rating. How do you get a 5-star rating? Well, not to be indelicate, but perhaps you had a beautiful view, you had a wildlife encounter as you watched an eagle soar across the sky. You were able to pinch off a loaf, and the cleanup was minimal, and it was a really generally positive experience. That would be a 5-star rating opportunity to poop in the woods. And so we'll talk about it. And the reason we talk about it is because we don't want kids to be avoiding that experience for 3-4 days. And so if the counselors are talking about it and making them more comfortable, then hopefully we can prevent issues of kids trying to hold it. Private toilets are available at base camp and all of our front country camping. Okay. All right. Someone asked, can I talk a little bit more about our first ascent programs? I can. However, we would love for you to reach out to Caroline, our admissions director, and schedule a call with her, Michelle. But I'll just share a couple things. The first ascent programs are really designed to create opportunities for these young adults, 18 and older, to have much more ownership about what is happening. And so, for instance, in North Carolina, they're fairly program standard. They're going to do a couple things here, raft. They're going to go to the Whitewater Center, National Whitewater Center in Charlotte. They'll do an experience there, and then they rent a house in Charleston, South Carolina, where they can choose from a variety of activities and how they want to spend this pool of money. The same is true for the first ascenders out in Wyoming, and they have a chance to do some similar activities, and they'll go to Salt Lake and determine how they're going to spend their big pool of money and the kinds of opportunities they want to engage in. But for additional details, I thoroughly encourage you to schedule a call with Caroline Hamilton and have her talk you through those schedules more specifically. Participation is incredibly important, both in how they participate and how they choose not to participate. We believe in a challenge by choice philosophy when it comes to many of the components of our program. And what is particularly difficult is, we want kids to make choices about the things that they're having a chance to do. So they get to select the level of difficulty they're willing to engage in an activity. Here are a couple examples. On the rock climb wall, let's say I've got a kid who's just terrified of heights. I'm going to ask them to learn to tie the knot and tie the knot with, and then maybe, give them a goal of climb 1 foot or 2 feet or 3 feet up. And then if they choose to come down, they can. Let's say they get halfway up. They're like, I want to come down. I want to come down. We'll say, okay, take a breath. You're in charge. Make a decision. See if you can't just take 15 seconds to decide if you want to maybe make one more move or if you want to come down. And then once they determine that they either want to go up or come down, that will be honored by the staff. Very often in that particular scenario, students will try just a little bit harder, and sometimes they'll keep trying a little bit harder until they make it to the top, and then they're just shocked that they were able to accomplish this thing. Same with the high ropes course. They get on the high course or the alpine tower, and they're the ones who decide just how far they're willing to push themselves. And then on the Nantahala, kids can choose to opt out of the last big rapid. They can't if they're doing an NC Expedition or they're doing the Ecoe, because there's no way to kind of do that, but they can choose not to participate in the whitewater portion if it's causing too much anxiety. We rarely have kids make that choice because whitewater rafting is just one of the most fun things we do. This challenge by choice does not apply to the expeditions, like going on the canoe trip or going on the horseback riding program or going on the backpacking trip in NC Classic, because they are core components of the course. And so where we're really asking kids to take a challenge by choice philosophy is when that choice is something that can be accommodated in a really thoughtful, productive way that is going to be a way for them to express some measure of control over what's happening in their lives. All right. How are potential injuries handled? Thanks, Raquel. That's a great question. Most of our staff have, if not all, have taken a course called Wilderness First Aid. Sorry about that. And so they've learned how to handle particular situations that might come up in any number of common problems, like a sprained ankle or a difficult they ate something that isn't sitting well with them, or they weren't watching where they were going, and they got smacked in the head with a small branch that kind of small cuts, little lacerations. All of those things our staff are qualified and capable to handle. What makes Wilderness First Aid interesting is that there are certain protocols that we can follow if we're not within 2 hours of definitive care. and definitive care is listed as, as a hospital. And so things like our staff all carry vials of epinephrine. So if somebody gets stung or is having an anaphylactic reaction, they can provide an injection. We also do a specific training on how to manage that. And so the absolute remarkable thing about how we operate is that our counselors are interacting as sort of they give out the medicines, they're providing counsel, they're doing first aid. They are doing all of that in really remarkable ways. Okay, Caroline, I'm going to let Karina answer that question because I don't know the answer to that question. Okay, let's move on. All right, behavior management. How do we handle and manage behavior? Well, over the years, we've developed some really thoughtful systems. This is an example of somebody giving 3 put-ups. You're nice, you're very giving, you're a good leader. But the most important component is validation. We provide our instructors with the idea that the very first interaction that you should have with our participants when they're struggling or in crisis is meeting them where they are and validating how they're feeling. We also use a variety of natural and logical consequences. Those can be positive, those can be negative, but they follow what might have happened. So an example of that might be, you refuse to clean your dish. Well, now you've got a dish that can't be used, and so we're going to have to come up with a opportunity for you to figure out how to clean your dish at some point, or we're going to have to find finger food for you to eat because you don't have a clean dish. What we're not going to do is we're not going to capitulate and clean your dish for you. Kids are expected to be a part of this experience in a really thoughtful and invested way. Another natural consequence or logical consequence might be that you've had a ruckus with or a fuss with some of the kids in your tent, and now folks are going to get moved to different tents. And so we are not a punitive program. We are not punishing kids to try and teach them lessons. We are encouraging and trying to remove the barriers that are going to prevent them from being successful. And one of the ways that we do that is focused ignoring. We do not have to attend every argument that we are invited to. And instead, what we find is that redirection and support tend to be much, much more thoughtful ways of navigating some of those difficult behaviors. You can find a host of webinars that I have hosted on our site. And many of them speak to the behavior management sort of strategies that we've adopted and support in this organization. More severe behavioral issues may result in a contract where we work with a camper to lay out exactly what the behavior was, what we're going to do to mitigate that behavior, and what will happen if that behavior continues. And that is typically a step. If we're contracting with a kid, parents are notified and involved and know that something has gotten severe enough that it requires a contract. Okay. All right. So some of the things that we're doing here at SOAR are going to be very powerful, and those experiences are going to be life affirming for your kids, and they're going to come home and they're going to be walking a little taller, and they're going to be more invested. And one of the ways that you can nurture or stretch out the amount of time that growth has a chance to sort of stick is to use some of the strategies that we use at SOAR when they come home. What you find is that there's often a lot of rebound to old behaviors when kids come back into old environments. And so here are some ideas that you can do at home that are like the way we do things at SOAR. Group roles and responsibilities. Every kid had a chance to be the leader for a day, and find a way to incorporate leadership opportunities and have that rotate in the family. Every evening, we're having a nightly meeting. We're talking about what happened that day, how we did on our goals or objectives. Are there any issues that we want to talk about? What's the schedule for tomorrow? No reason that kind of thing can't happen at home. We create individual weekly goals and we evaluate that progress. We utilize logical and natural consequences and avoid being punitive. We let them plan a meal, give you a shopping list, maybe even allow them to, you be their sous chef and let them cook a meal at home. Let them teach you how to make a trail pizza. They're delicious. They're absolutely scrumptious. Campers coming home from SOAR have all done their own laundry. And, this could provide you with an opportunity to have them continue to help do their own laundry or to not do it at all. I remember very well my mom coming into, I think we were in middle school, and she said, "That's it. I'm never doing your laundry again," because she had done laundry and she'd put it in our rooms, and rather than put it away, because we were in a hurry, we just stuffed it back in a laundry hamper. And that was that. That was the last time she ever did laundry until I came back from college and she wanted to help out. And then money management, consider an allowance to assist with your kid, having a certain amount of money. And I love that because, rather than paying them for chores are part of being part of this family. This extra little money is to help you learn how to budget. And those are just a couple thoughtful ideas. We've got some webinars, and again, they'll crank back up in the fall, but there's lots of them, and you can find them on ADHD. Karina, can you share on the YouTube site that you can find a lot of those webinars, and then also on our website. I'm going to open it up to questions now. You folks have asked some wonderful, thoughtful questions. I love it. So what would you like to know? Anybody? By the way,
you want us to type it or just ask?
No, yeah, you can just ask if you like. But by the way, this is my last season as SOAR's executive director. I will be moving into a consultant capacity in September, and thrilled to have Jonathan David Jones take the mental leadership. I will continue on in a capacity providing support to parents and continuing to do some development and fundraising and webinars. So, but what would you like to know?
So my son sometimes gets like super itchy, and I will at times give him like a Benadryl or sometimes like lotion for his skin. What happens if they have like an allergic reaction? I mean, and I don't mean like an anaphylactic allergic reaction, but like really itchy. Do you guys have Benadryl on hand?
We carry general OTC meds in the first aid kit. We have a fairly thoughtful and exhaustive med kit. In that med kit, there's a diarrhea medicine, there is itch creams, there is Benadryl, there's ibuprofen, Tylenol, and so just your general OTCs are in the first aid kit and available. And the first aid kit is on, the staff carry it with them all the time, wherever they go.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead and raise your hand if you want, and I'll call on you if you have a question.
There's some in the chat as well. One says, please describe the academic activity.
Okay, please describe the academic activities. Okay, so we're doing some study skill remediation and teaching kids how to do some study skill opportunities. And then there are some activities around having a chance to go to, for instance, the fish hatchery and learn about how they're doing fish harvesting. But the academic component to that program is really centered around nurturing and developing study skill habits. Okay. Thanks. All right. Who else has a question?
There's one here. What if our kid gets nervous and thinks they want to come home right away?
All right. Thank you for asking that question, because it gives me an opportunity to give you a tough answer. All right. So you have done your child a disservice if you set up with them in advance that they could come home if they just to give it a try. Just give it a try. And if you don't like it, you can call us and we'll come get you. Because if you do that, you will get that phone call and you will be asked to come get them. And then you've got to figure out how to handle that, because that's the arrangement that you made with them. And there is no refund. You've taken up that spot for that course. Instead, what I want you to do is try and work to get them really excited about the opportunity, and get them invested in being here. Now, one way that families have done that is they have offered 2 or 3 alternatives. You're doing something this summer, and then they choose this as the alternative that they're going to go, and so they made that choice. Now, what we do here, if that happens, is we have a chance to kind of connect and to talk with them. We'll let them write a letter home. We're well versed with dealing with homesick kids, and it is it's a really difficult thing. In rare extreme cases, we'll actually schedule a phone call home, so that, because sometimes there's a kid and they just, even though you may not have said it, they just believe if you could know how they're really feeling, that you would come get them. And it's a tough thing, but sometimes you've got to close that door. And the most wonderful thing you can do for them is to close that door, because now they know you're not going to come rescue them, and they've got to live in the moment of where they are. And it is remarkable. The change in a kid that believes that, that if only they could talk to you, they would come home, against that very same kid when they realize, okay, they're here. Now they can start investing in the experience, start engaging in those relationships, start developing those friendships. And we will have those conversations with your kids on a continual basis until they become a distraction, and those conversations keep feeding that homesick behavior. If you're really worried about it, I would encourage you to read a book called Homesick and Happy. And it is because the truth is that grit is earned. And the only way that you develop grit is that you persevere through difficult circumstances. And homesickness is one of those experiences. So, we can be very empathetic, and we'll work with your kid and we'll work with you. But it is, there are things that parents sometimes do that set the stage and create a more difficult circumstance going forward. Renee, you're next.
Thanks. So I had a question around the food and allergies, or really intolerances. My son has more just intolerances. There's nothing anaphylactic reactions of any sort, but it could be diarrhea type stuff, and that would be horrible to have on a whole trip. So I did add that as a component when I signed up, but I was just wondering, like, as you talked about it, it doesn't seem as severe as, his onion, it's weird stuff. It's not like all dairy. He can't have milk or soft dairy. He can do cheese though. So
Okay.
how do I go about kind of explaining that he knows what he can and can't have?
Sure.
But
So
yeah.
So there will be dairy-free options at base camp meals. Going dairy-free can get kind of pricey in the expeditionary type food, but we do have a lot of cheese, and so I just have a really thoughtful, honest, candid conversation with his instructor about what he can and can't have, so that they can be prepared and know that, and specifically, when they're reading his paperwork and developing their menu, they'll be taking that into consideration as they're planning their menu, and the menu that we create has alternatives for those kind of areas where you're particularly going to be able to come in helpful is if you can say, okay, they're only dairy free unless it's cheese. They can have cheese, right? Because dairy free cheese is disgusting.
Yes, it is. He did have it early on, but he's moved on from that. So going back to it probably wouldn't be the best thing. It's pretty gross.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Who else has a question? All right, Raquel. Love it.
I have just a few more questions. One was, when will we know like the final daily schedule? I know I was sent one for last year. Would it be more or less the same as this year?
When as your son signed up?
Yeah, he has.
All right. Karina, when will those be available to the final schedule to be sent to them? Hello?
I'm not sure if Karina is still on the call. Let me see.
I mean, does it change a lot from year to year? Because if it's basically
some of the courses do. Which courses you signed up for?
canoeing.
Okay, no, it's the same. Canoeing hasn't changed at all.
Okay. My next question is, what is the weather typically like? Just so he knows what to expect. I'm hoping a lot cooler than Miami in the summer. But what is it usually like over there?
So here's the temps are pleasant. I think rarely do we get into the 90s. Typically it's in the in the 80s. But there's a saying here: if you don't like the weather in North Carolina, wait 15 minutes. So
I used to live in Charlotte, but not up in the mountains.
Charlotte is warmer, much warmer.
Okay.
And so there is a season that the insects get kind of lousy, but here at our Balsa base camp, we don't have a real problem with insects. And so nights are typically in the low 80s, upper 70s. Days are in the mid 80s to upper 80s.
Okay. And the last question, have you ever seen, do the parents ever get like a WhatsApp chat, maybe when they figure out which kids are in which camp, just to, I don't know, talk to each other? I maybe it goes aside, but I don't know if that's ever a thing that you guys have seen.
It's certainly not something that we've ever done or created, but I think we do send out contact information for who the kids were, and so that can happen after post course, but probably not during course. I mean, we're still there are certain laws that we have to follow because we're working with special needs kids, and so giving out that information is tricky.
Thank you.
Of course. No, you're the big winner, Raquel. 5 questions. I loved it. And every one of them, banger. All right. Anybody else want to try and take the title from Raquel? All right. Well, here, seeing or none. I don't see any hands raised. Alicia, do you have a question?
Give me 1 second. I just had to move areas. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I apologize.
No problem.
So I just want to clarify the money. I was reading Karina's message that there's no money that the kids are going to be having, correct? Like it's just an invoice. So I apologize if you could go over that one more time.
That's fine. There is spending money that's part of the invoice. All right. And so we're carrying whatever the spending money is. We'll pull a little bit of that for the celebratory meal. All right. And then the rest of it, we're carrying in little baggies that have their name. And then we dole it out and during spending opportunities. And we'll, okay, here you go. And we'll give them some of the money from the bag, and then we'll take the change and put it back in the bag.
That's awesome. Okay. I wanted clarification on that. And I think that was it. Just regarding the hospital, because I'm trying to think of in Asheville, like you said that you're about 2 hours away from a hospital. Yeah.
In North Carolina, there are four hospitals that typically if we have to go to a hospital. There's C.J. Harris and Silva. So anything from the Nantahala to Silva, we'll use that hospital. There's the Haywood County Hospital here in Waynesville. Then there's in Western, there's Asheville and the and Mission Hospital. And then there's also a hospital in Brevard where we program quite a bit, Transylvania County Hospital.
Transylvania. Okay. Nothing to Charlotte? Too far?
Well, no, I mean, if the first ascent, something happens to the first ascenters.
Yeah.
But no, we're going locally. Very locally.
Okay, cool. That was the other thing. All right. So very local. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Sounds exciting.
It is. It's amazing. Veronica.
Hey there. I was wondering if there's any way to find out which counselors are going to be working which camps. My son, this is his first time at SOAR summer camp, but his very first SOAR camp was the Florida Keys in December. And I was just wondering if some of the same faces will be at
Which courses he signed up for?
The canoeing.
Okay. I don't know, Veronica. But if I'm going to give you my email address, and you can send me that question, and I'll forward it on to the directors here, and see if there's anyone working that canoe program that was involved in the Florida Keys course. My email is bigjohn@soarnc.org.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, we can find out.
Yeah, I think it would just be nice if there were some friendly faces. I know Oliver, or my son, he got to know Ryan Smith.
Well, Ryan Smith is the director of the program, so he'll be around.
Okay.
And so, and I was there as well, and I'll be around.
Okay.
Or maybe I won't be. Maybe by then I'll be in California. But some of the instructors that were in Florida and the Christmas Keys will be in North Carolina. But typically, those assignments are made the day before the program starts because we've got enrollment occurring sometimes up to the last minute, and we're putting together groups based on age, gender, and what we believe will make cohesive teams.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anybody else?
I just wanted to give a little bit of information real quick. For the anyone who has already has their child enrolled, if you check the news section and the parent handbook in your CampMinder account, that will give you information that maybe you've already missed in previous emails that we've sent out, just information about camp. That's also where you can access your travel form and give us information about flights and things of when your kid is coming to camp.
Fabulous. Thank you, Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks, it is 3 o'clock. We've been together for an hour, and it has been my unmitigated pleasure. Looking forward to getting a chance to have SOAR work with your kids, and thank you for the trust you put in us to make that happen. All right. Bye, folks.